So, so when your question is, how does someone go from, where they're at to like where I'm at, that's a tough thing to answer, because I think the individual has a lot to do with it. And also the opportunities that present themselves have a lot to do with it. And the support they put around themselves and the mentorship they put around themselves. So, I gotta say, I was very blessed in my career, because I got, right out of the gate, when I was finishing my bachelor's degree in computer engineering, about 12 of us were handpicked to sit in a ASIC design class that was going to be taught by a senior engineer from Hewlett Packard. And that exposed us to HP. And then they handpicked us to come and work at HP. So I basically walked into HP. And when I walked in, they gave me a choice. Do you want to go this way or that way? So I want to start that way first, and it was great, because for a couple of years I did software. Imagine just right out of school, right? Just come in and doing software development. I worked on next generation architecture. And then I said, you know what? This is fun. Now I want to go do hardware. So then I started working on board level design. I did that for a little bit and said, okay, this is great. Now I want to go work on chips. I'm like, okay, come over here. And then, so that set me on this path of, so what do I want to do? So because of that, I ended up with a background in software engineering, hardware engineering, ASIC development. Then I did program management. I did marketing. I did some sales, all kinds of different roles. And then I focused on program management and operations for a good part of my career. But I got exposure across the board. This is one of the reasons I can help you guys the way I can, is because I got exposure, very broad exposure, and throughout my career. So I don't know if I answered your question or
Yes,
not.
it did. In fact, if anything, one thing I can take home from everything you said is, especially at this time where, what do you call it? Information is moving really fast. You shouldn't get comfortable with just one thing. You want to seek exposure in regard with as many other things as possible. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Early on in my career, I realized one thing. There's two types of people in the business world. Typically, there's one that are vertical experts. Let me call it. They know, like for example, I knew software engineers that they did that for 25 years. Just working on a particular piece of code, working for HP, working for Intel, working for all these companies, and they knew a particular thing to the nth degree. Experts in a particular field, just that field. But tell that person to go do something else, they couldn't do it. All right. So if you think of skill sets and knowledge, you can think of it as like a pillar, like a singular pillar. Or you can look at it as a foundation. Now, the difference with the foundation isn't very deep necessarily. It doesn't need to be very deep. It needs to have some depth, but it needs to be very broad, right? You can't build a house on one pillar, right? You can't build a building on a pillar. You can build it on a foundation, right? So for me, I like the foundation model. I like knowing a good amount about many things, versus knowing everything about one thing. And that's what set my pathway into what you see now. And I've had many times where I was in a very good, comfortable position. It's like when I left HP, I was doing fantastic. In 5 years, I had grown the ranks, and I was like one of the top engineers there, and I could do whatever I want. But I left. Why? Because Philips Semiconductor said, how about you come and help us build a design center for us, to do this type of work. So my first job was driving around looking for office space, 5 years out of school, right? So it's kind of things like that attracted me. And I had people always tell me, you're crazy. Why are you doing this? Do you even know how to do this? I'm like, nope, but I'll figure it out. So you have to have that type of a mentality to be open to risk. to be open to failure. I mean, that's the other part of it, right? Being able to see a challenge and to say, well, I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but I'm going to go do it. So that I think is one really big distinction, whether you want, like your school, product marketing school. So the people coming out of there, do they want to be the expert on product marketing? And that's great. Or do they want to have a more broad exposure across all kinds of elements of a business? So for me, I would go crazy if I was doing one thing. And by the way, the reason I gravitated towards operations and COOs is because of that. I deal with legal, accounting, engineering, marketing, sales, program management, product management, everything. Right? In the role that I'm in, I'm able to touch everything that happens within a company.
But
So that's what I like.
That makes a lot of sense. I think, lastly, Piman,
That's okay.
I believe we are like in a couple of ways because,
Okay.
yes, what if I told you I had done blockchain engineering?
I believe it. Yeah,
Yes, I had done blockchain engineering. I was one of the few persons from Africa that got into the Polygon Academy at the time. I trained with them. I had also gone on to do a bit of software, then focused on website design. Then I was in e-commerce, made some more.
So you know what I mean.
Yes,
so the breadth is,
I can relate. And it has really helped me, even with product marketing school, then with what we are doing at Price Scouts, because it means that I can look at this and tell what is not working and what should be fixed and all of that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Piman.